What's up, everyone? Kind of a sad day today because while everyone's on track, I'm here still working on the car. So I got all the parts and pieces coming in little by little, but I have enough of the fittings and whatnot to start plumbing the surge tank. So that's what I'm gonna do today. So I gotta drill 4 holes through the body of the car to pass through the 4 lines going in and out of the surge tank. So I'm gonna poke them around there, and all I'm going to use is a step drill. So gonna drill until I can pass through a bulkhead fitting. So instead of having the line go through the body and rub against the edges of the hole, this is a pass through, so I'm going to drill just enough for this to pass through, and this nut should hold it down, and that will have a clean way for the plumbing for the surge tank fuel lines to go in and out from the interior and exterior of the car. So this is the hose I'm going to use for the E85 fuel lines. These were specifically made for E85, so it should withstand any brittling or whatnot that you would normally experience when using a rubber line. But the inside is PTFE. I think that's the main thing that helps prevent E85 from kind of deteriorating the material. On the outside, it's a nylon braided line, but also woven is steel braided material. So it is reinforced. It should be pretty tough. Yeah. Before I start routing this fuel line, I do want to do a test cut just to make sure I can successfully cut it. I'm using these hose cutters. I got this when I was crimping some PEX tubing, but should be strong enough for this. So I wrapped the end of the hose with some painter's tape to kind of help with the frame, and then I'm going to cut it. Definitely crush the line, not desirable, but I think there is a tool to kind of get it back in shape. It came with the hose kit, so I think that'll do. And I think what you're supposed to do next is obviously remove the painter's tape. Oh damn, it kind of frayed the braiding a little more than I wanted, so I'm gonna go ahead and find a better way to cut this. Okay, the good news is I found a way to cut it cleanly. The bad news is it's my table saw. So it's bad news because I want to custom fit these lines, i.e. route them, mark them where I want to cut them to length. But every time I do that, I would then have to remove it, bring it to the saw, then route it back on the car. So that's a good and bad. But after you do get a clean cut, I did reshape the PTFE hose inside back to shape. You're supposed to flare the braided line, because the ferrule that's supposed to go over it can't be caught up with the braided line on the outside. So I'm just gonna flare it. I'm just using a little pick tool. I don't know if there's a official tool for this. Yeah, don't know if I have one or if the kit came with one, but just making sure there's not gonna be any strands in the way. And this is gonna be a pain. I think I need to do 16 of these to hook everything up. Oh, actually, before I do that, I think I was supposed to put the collar in. Okay, wrong order. But this is just a test or practice before I go at it. And I'm gonna flare it again, since putting that collar kind of undid my work a little. Okay, here's the ferrule. It's supposed to go this way. Again, you got to be careful not to catch any of the braided lines. So I think I got everything there. And basically, the other end of the fitting goes in the inside. Ooh, that's gonna be tight. And this kind of compresses, this collar compresses the ferrule against the hose, and on the inside then presses it against this end of the fitting, which would then make your seal. So I meant, once this is tight, this thing ain't going nowhere. Not gonna fully tighten it, just practicing and test fitting, because I've never done this before. This is my cutting setup. I really like this Evolution cutting wheel because it is I think they call it a cold cutting wheel. Normally an abrasive grinder throws a lot of sparks, but this one has minimum to none. I think you probably saw it on another video when I was cutting the steel plate for the surge tank reservoir base. But I'm using this also to do the cutting on the fuel line, because the fuel line is steel braided. Basically, I tape the fuel line just like I did before, but I added another piece of tape here to give it some extra rigidity on the other end of the hose while I make the cut. So I'll show that in action. Nice and clean, if you can see that. I'm on the primary side fuel pump, which is on the passenger side, and I'm having a hard time connecting the AN fitting to this fuel nozzle. What I mean by that is the aftermarket fitting that I got wouldn't fully seat on here and when it doesn't, the locking mechanism doesn't latch on to secure the line, and we can't have this guy popping off when the car is running. And the reason I think it's not latching on is because it's unable to fully seat, and what's obstructing it was the bottom of the nozzle. It kind of pyramids out to a 90. I can't get the camera up under here, but this is the bottom part that is interfering with the edge of this hose. So what I did, kind of ghetto, was took a Dremel, notched it out to give it extra clearance. Kind of got a little too happy with the Dremel here. Thankfully these surfaces are non-functioning. The fuel line actually gets sealed with the O-rings way down there, and there is a groove in the inner part of this, but that just serves to hold the blue locking mechanism, which it's still functional. And with that notch, so long as it's facing down where it needed additional clearance, now locks. So I got caught up with that, but I think I'll be back on track. Don't make fun of my Crocs, but let's see where we're at. So I got everything buttoned up here, so you can't see it, but the new fuel line that's E45 compatible is here. All of the 6AN fittings are behind here, but there's a 90 coming here, and I don't know why this stack up is the way it is. Even the old line had a really large fitting, but I think I have a 1/2 inch to a reducer to a 3/8 inch hose, all E85 compatible. I did replace them. That goes to a 3/8 inch barb fitting, that's 6AN, that goes to the joint to the new fuel line. So that's that on this starvation side tank. So we are on the driver's side. Here's the primary side, or the passenger side. I took a video of this earlier and why this was a pain, but again, you can't see the whole 6AN fitting going to the new fuel line here. So this side is also done. Again, I have a starvation tank, and I left this hose as is. So this is the hose that pumps from the starvation tank on this side of the fuel tank and brings the fuel over to the primary side. I do have new E85 compatible lines to replace this, but I was having trouble fishing it through underneath this part of the body, and they didn't feel too bad anyways. Not brittle or anything, so I just left that as is. So I left all the existing fuel lines here, just tucked away on the side. I don't think it's going to do anything. Not worth the effort to remove it all. But yeah, so everything back here is done. Okay, I want to mention one more thing, just in case it's not super clear. This goes to the surge tank, and this is the overflow. This used to be the return line from the fuel pressure regulator, but now it's being repurposed for the overflow. So as the surge tank fills up and is at max capacity, it will then dump it back to the fuel tank by this line. This again is the starvation fuel pump that delivers fuel on this side of the fuel tank to this side of the fuel tank. And this is gonna be what feeds the surge tank. So this primary tank, this used to feed the engine, but now this will feed the surge tank. So this will connect to the surge tank, and this will go and fill it up. This part's gonna be hard to see, but I want to show you the progress down here. So this is where all the fuel lines are going to be coming into and out of the body. Looks messy here, but I haven't installed all the bulk fittings. That's why there's some empty holes there. But the one fuel line that is connected with a 90-degree elbow, I believe, is the return line. So that will connect to the surge tank, to the main tank as an overflow. Then the other three lines are going to the fuel filter, the fuel pressure regulator return line, and then what's the other one I'm forgetting? Overflow, fuel pressure regulator, fuel filter, and then the inlet from the primary tank to the surge tank. So this part's not finished because I didn't realize I'm going to be needing a lot of 90-degree angle fittings. I ordered a lot of straight fittings, but yeah, I'm gonna need a whole bunch more of 90 degrees, not just for underneath here, but I'm predicting I may need some from the top as well. I have 4 in order. It's coming in 2 days, but if I need another 4, might be a few more days. Further down the car, again, this might be hard to see, but a lot of the lines kind of go right above this, I guess, control arm. It comes really close to the spring. Clearance is going to be really important there. But most of it kind of just goes to the side of the fuel tank as well as above it. I actually had to remove the fuel tank straps to kind of lower the fuel tank a little bit, just so I can fish a few lines around it and over it. And here are the connections to the fuel return line, as well as the fuel going into the fuel filter or the engine. Again, I had to put a leader hose here, I guess that's what I'm going to call it, because this is a hose fitting. So it's like a barb fitting to this hose, to a 5/16 inch barb fitting, to a 6AN, and then to the new fuel line. Again, this is the same as from the primary fuel pump, a 5/16 inch quick disconnect to a 6AN, and into the new fuel line. Long day today, but I finally feel like I got a lot of work done. Again, everything is pretty much hooked up to the fuel lines from underneath the car. I'm just waiting on some bittings so everything can get connected to the bulkhead. But I think the fun part's going to be once everything's connected to that bulkhead, I either pass through from under the car into the cabin, then I'll be able to make the lines that go from the bulkhead into the actual surge tank. So that's the part that's going to be visible, and I think that's going to be the fun part. But for now, that's it.